Hey everyone, I'm Oliver Shortle, National Artistic Manager for Kenra Professional. Thank you so much for joining today to learn all about coloring gray hair. I'm going to be talking through full gray coverage, gray blending, and gray reduction, and I'm also going to be showing full gray coverage on my client today. There are many reasons why a client decides to color their gray hair. They may be seeing the first signs of their gray hair and want to blend. They may have regrowth from a previous coloring service and want full coverage, or they may just want to camouflage their gray hair. It's always important to consult with your clients to know exactly what they want. Whatever the case may be, there's a service for anyone. First, let's talk about full coverage. When your client doesn't want to see any gray hair, a full coverage option is the best way to go. This is the client that you're going to see in the salon every 4 to 6 weeks, so make sure that they're fully committed to that coloring service. Every color line has its own way of covering gray hair. With Kenra Color, we try not to overcomplicate things. We have a gray coverage chart that you can find on our website and in our swatch book. We also have the Kenra Color Amazon Alexa skill to help you with formulation. Permanent color is a great tool to use when you're looking for up to 100% gray coverage. When coloring gray hair, we always recommend adding one of our natural series shades into your formula. Not only do we have our N, or natural shade, we also have shades with secondary reflections. We have shades such as NA, or natural ash, NB, or natural brown, and NUA, which is natural ultra ash. By using these, you're able to control or enhance warmth and provide up to 100% gray coverage. We also offer red and copper shades that provide up to 75% gray coverage. These shades are RN, or red natural, and CN, or copper natural. Many times I see colorists use a natural series on its own for gray coverage. But with Kenra Color, we have a beautiful line of permanent colors that are meant to be intermixed for that desired tonal result. With Kenra Color, we provide you a gray coverage chart to help you with formulation. For 25% gray, we recommend mixing 25% of our natural series with 75% of your desired shade. For 50% gray coverage, we recommend mixing 50% of our natural series with 50% of your desired shade. If your client is above 50% gray, we recommend mixing 75% of our natural series with 25% of your desired shade. We always recommend mixing 1:1 with 20 volume for full gray coverage. Within our Kenra Color core portfolio, our permanent shades offer reflective coverage that still show the highs and lows. If your client is looking for a more saturated coverage, we also have our monochrome series, which provides up to 100% gray coverage and provides intense shine. Next, let's talk about gray blending. Gray blending is an amazing service for clients that don't mind seeing more dimension in their coverage. This is a great option for people that are just starting to see grays and want to start to blend those away. This is also an amazing service for people that want to stop using permanent color and want to transition into something that's lower maintenance. That being said, the commitment level of this client is much less than that of a full coverage client. The grow out would be much softer. Within Kenra Color, our demi-permanent shades are a great option for gray blending. Generally, they're mixed in a 1:2 ratio. But for more intense coverage, we can mix them in a 1:1 ratio with our 9-volume activator and process for up to 25 minutes. If a client is coming into the salon for a retouch for their gray blending service and still has color on their ends, you can use your 1:1 mixing ratio for the root and then 1:2 mixing ratio for the mid-lengths and ends. Gray reduction is a unique service because you're lowering the percentage of gray that someone has. This can be done by coloring or lightening the hair. This type of client likes their gray hair, they just don't want to see quite as much of it. This is going to be the lowest maintenance service when it comes to coloring gray hair because you're leaving some of the hair untouched. Gray reduction isn't about just coloring some of the hair darker. Remember that when you lighten gray hair, you're exposing some slight warmth. Whether going darker or lighter, you're softening the appearance of the gray hair. Gray reduction is a great option for people that have 25 to 75% gray hair. Below that won't have much of an impact. And higher than that, the color may look too placed. This service can be done in a few different ways. The first would be foiling. This can be done all over the head or just in targeted areas depending on where the highest percentage of gray is. This technique can also be used to allow other areas of the head to stand out. For instance, your client may be 75% gray through the back of their head and 100% through the front. You can foil through the 75% gray area and it will really allow the 100% gray area to really stand out. Gray reduction can also be done with freehand painting. You can pick small subsections and apply either color or lightener to create a very soft blended effect. Gray reduction is also a great technique for short hair. Lightener or color can be painted onto a comb and then combed through the surface of the hair. Just like all other gray reduction techniques, this gives a very soft blended effect. It's important to remember that you can either use permanent or demi-permanent color for this service. It all comes down to the commitment level of the client. Whether fully covering, blending, or reducing your client's gray hair, it's always important to consult with them during every visit. There's so many options when it comes to covering your client's gray hair, and it's important to always know their hair goals. By working with my level finder today, I can see that my client is a natural level 4. To use your level finder, you can spread the swatch open, insert it into the hair, and whenever the swatch disappears, that's when you know you've found the client's natural level. It can be a little difficult when working with a high percentage of gray, but just try to find that dark hair and really isolate that so you can see where you're starting. I know that I want to color my client to a level 5 today, because if you can see where she's been previously colored, I spread out my level 5 swatch, insert it into the hair, and it disappears. To find out if you're working with the right swatch or not, you can go one level above or one level below and test that. So if I work with a level 4 and I insert that, you can see that you can actually still see the swatch. I'm going to be working with a 20 volume developer today because I do want to get deposit on her white hair, and I also want to lift that one level from her natural level 4 to the colored level 5. When I tilt my client's head down, you can see that she's about 75% gray here through the top. If you need help finding the percentage of gray that your client has, you can look here at the center of our level finder. Here we have 75%, 50%, and 25%. So if I hold this next to my client's hair, you can see that the 75% and her hair are actually a really good match. So that's how I know the amount of natural that I'm going to be adding into my formula. Because we're going for full gray coverage today and my client has a natural level 4, I don't need to worry too much about underlying pigment. After going through my 5 steps to easy formulation, I've decided that I need to use 75% of a natural and 25% of my desired shade. For my client today, I'm going to be working with 75% of my formula as 5NB and 25% with 5G and 20 volume. One common myth is that hair is more resistant around the hairline. In fact, hair is generally more fine and more porous around the hairline, which means that it could take color faster than the other areas of the head. Another fact is that hair is generally more gray around the hairline, which means that you may need to add more natural into your formula. Because hair is generally more coarse through the crown and the back of the head, I'm going to start my application in my back 2 quadrants, then moving to the front and finishing off with my hairline. Before I begin my application, I want to start with my sectioning. I'm going to be working with a very simple section of just working in 4 quadrants, so 2 back quadrants and 2 front quadrants. It's really important that when you are applying this color, that all the hair is laying straight back or straight to the side from where it grows. You want to make sure it doesn't sit at a diagonal because then you won't get that true line of marcation that you need to cover. To begin my application, I'm going to start by outlining my section. As I'm going through my section, I'm taking small subsections and applying to both sides. This is going to ensure that I keep my application clean, but also that I get enough saturation. You may have noticed in the past where you haven't gotten the coverage that you've needed. Sometimes that could be because of the application. Maybe you're not saturating the hair enough, but it also could come from formulation. Make sure that you always have proper formulation and really pay attention to the size of these subsections. As you're working through your section, the size of your subsection is really going to depend on the density of the hair. Because my client has a medium density, I'm working with about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch subsection. This ensures that that color is getting all the way through into the other side. You know that you have a proper size subsection when you apply to the bottom and you can see that there's more hair color than actual hair. You'll notice as I'm going through that I get a line of color on my brush. I want to make sure that I keep this as a clean application, and then I'm patting and pressing that into these subsections. This ensures that I'm not brushing the color onto the previously colored hair, because we always want to remember that color over color will go darker. You don't want to turn your gray coverage client into a color correction client by creating bands throughout the hair. As I get to the lower section, in the nape area, you can see that the hair gets more fine. Because the hair is more fine, I don't need to necessarily apply to both sides, but this is going to be a client by client case. So, as you can see, when I pull this hair out of the head, it still looks very thin even though I'm taking the same subsection. So I can bring it up, and I know that I can press all that color all the way through the section. Once I've completed my section, I need to bring all the hair back. I want to be very careful as I do this. I don't want to pull on the hair too much, because remember, you have color sitting about an inch away from the scalp down here. If I pull this hair too tight, it's going to come through the rest of the hair and could create banding or blotching. Earlier I was talking about really pressing that color into the hair, making sure it goes into your subsection. What I see a lot that could cause banding is when people come through and really brush through the hair. You can see that that's going over your previously colored hair and can create that banding, which would be just a dark line that happens just off the regrowth. A lot of times you'll notice that the hair starts to slip away from the scalp as you're coloring gray hair. You want to make sure that the scalp is completely covered. Sometimes the hair can be resistant, so it actually pushes the color away from where it needs to be. Make sure you're not tugging that hair as you're going through, because again, it'll force color through the section that hasn't been colored and could get on previously colored hair. To minimize staining around the hairline, make sure that you're not applying too much color. You want to color those gray hairs, but you don't need to stain the skin so much. So when you're doing that, you can work with the corner of your brush and just go through, especially if they have a lower hairline, and lay those hairs into that last subsection. One thing I see a lot in the salon is as people are bringing their sections back, they'll use a comb to blend in the color. Just remember, if you have the perfect application and you're only going to that line of demarcation, you don't need to go into that previously colored hair, because again, it's going to create banding, but even a worse type of banding this time, because it's going to be really diffused and it'll be very hard to lift out of the hair. As I get to my front quadrants, I'm going to outline, but in a little bit different way this time. So I'm going to go the back and the top of the section, leaving the hairline out. Again, I want to do the hairline last because that tends to be more porous and a finer area of the head. Once I get to the hairline, I want to make sure that I'm not applying the color lower than the hairline. So one tip that I can give you is to work with a dry brush with your color. You want to make sure that you don't have too much color already on your brush, because it could get a little bit messy. So really just going through, working with that corner of the brush and feathering that in. You want to make sure that you have enough saturation, but not so much so that the hairline is extremely stained. While you're dabbing and pressing the color throughout the rest of the application, with the hairline, you really just want to lay it on the surface, making sure that you're not getting too much on the scalp area. Now that I've finished my retouch application, I'm going to allow my client to process for 30 to 40 minutes. 30 minutes is the general processing time for Kenra Color permanent color, but she can process up to 40 minutes if she has more resistant gray hair. Today I'm going to allow her to process for 5 to 10 minutes before applying the Demi just off the retouch through to the ends. So I'm going to be working with 6G and 9 volume. Today I'm choosing to use porosity equalizing spray to dampen my client's hair before my Demi permanent color application. She has porous hair, and this product is going to allow the color to take evenly. To keep my application really clean, I'm starting in the bottom and then working my way all the way to the front. That's going to ensure that I'm not disrupting any of that retouch formula that I have on the root. I'm also going through spraying my porosity equalizing spray section by section. That ensures that the product's not going to dry out before I get my Demi permanent color on there. I applied a foil in the bottom, and I'm going to be laying all the hair on top of that. This helps to keep the application super clean and neat. As I'm working with my porosity equalizing spray, I really just want the hair to be just damp enough. I don't want it to be wet, but I also want to make sure that I don't have any dry areas. So I spray it on and then use my fingers to really pull that through to the ends to make sure that those porous areas are getting enough product as well. Just as before with the permanent color for that retouch, we want to make sure that the hair is really saturated with color on the ends as well. To ensure that you have enough saturation, you can open up the hair and really see if there are any dry spots. So to do that, you can just fan out the hair and look to see if there's anything that looks dry. Now that I've finished my full color application, I'm going to allow it to process for another 25 minutes. That's the full processing time for Kenra Color's Demi Permanents, and I want to make sure that I'm getting that full saturation of that beautiful golden hue. The timer has just gone off for my permanent and Demi permanent processing times. To check that the gray hairs have fully covered, I can use the back of my foiling comb, remove a little bit of color, and push up to make sure that there's no light shining through any of those grays. As you can see, I have full coverage, so I know that it's time to rinse, shampoo, and condition. After my client finished processing, I shampooed her with Kenra's Color Maintenance Shampoo and Conditioner. I'm now going to be using Nitro Memory Cream 18 to blow dry your hair to give an amazing foundation for flat iron waves. Before creating the flat iron waves, I'm going to be working with Color Maintenance Thermal Spray 11. This is going to be a great base to provide that thermal protection and really protect this fresh color. Here you can see that my client's gray hair has been completely covered using Kenra Color permanent shades. The shine is incredible and the condition feels amazing. By using all the steps and the tips that I gave you today, you're sure to get that perfect gray coverage every time. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest from Kenra Professional.